Had about a week to go through Marvel's Avengers with all of the new updates, the next gen updates, and the Hawkeye DLC. Today on the show, I'm giving you my review, my impressions of all of this updated content in one package for you guys today. That episode is right now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Assemble. I'm Matt. Thank you very much for joining us here on the show. I'm very excited. It's Thursday, I think. It's a great day on the internet. Everyone's having a good time. Lots of Marvel's Avengers content for you guys on the channel. Thank you so much for supporting the show, by the way. Thank you for joining us on Patreon at patreon.com/assembleshow for your exclusive content. Thank you guys on YouTube for subscribing and helping us get past that 1,000 subscriber mark. You guys are amazing. Thank you very much for your support. Sincerely, thank you all. Today, Marvel's Avengers. Let's give you what I call, I guess, an impressions and review. We have a lot to cover, so stick with me. No, I will not go through a Hawkeye DLC review. I already got that one up there. Check that out on the channel, but I will include it in the conversation. So we are going to talk about custom harm rooms, campaign replay, Hawkeye DLC, the next gen updates on Series X and PS5, and that process, and overall of what to expect in this game for 2021. Let's kick things off with the campaign. Square Enix added in the campaign replay for us, so now we can actually go back and redo this thing and carry over what we've already unlocked. So it's allowing for a lot of great replay for a lot of players out there to be able to go back and enjoy what is considered to be a fairly solid campaign. Kamala's story is a really good one. It's a really interesting one from her perspective. Is it the best Marvel story and Avengers story that you could tell in a video game? No. And in a lot of scenarios, in a lot of cases, far from it. It's not my most favorite thing, and it's not exactly the story I would want to tell when it comes to having the property of Marvel's Avengers in a video game. But for a single story campaign, they told the story they wanted to tell with Kamala as the center figure, as the Avenger that is new to the team, that is a fan of them, and trying to reform the Avengers. Now that Square and the team over there have added in the campaign replay, it's a great incentive for players to want to go back, particularly with all of the next-gen updates. The next-gen updates that we received were all of the enhancements that we have gone in deep dive in previous episodes, from 4K to 60 frames per second, you're getting ray tracing, more depth of field, load times are cut down significantly. I'm playing on my PlayStation 5, and those stinking elevators are now going from 20 seconds, 30 seconds to 4 seconds, 5 seconds. I timed it out in some cases and I was getting about 4.5 seconds to go from one mission area to the next. Going from the war table, selecting my mission in the Quinjet, and then getting into the actual mission is actually taking seconds. This is a breath of fresh air coming from the days of the beta last year to when the game officially launched, and seeing where we are today. It is a great improvement. This is one of the pluses for this game, and if you are new to it and you are playing with the idea of picking it up, it's possibly a good time. It's almost your most optimal time now to be able to get in there. When you are getting all of these next-gen updates, and particularly with that campaign, you're getting the best that it has to offer. Those cutscenes look great. The actual skins, costumes, and the way the characters move and play and fight, it's all optimized now. It plays really good as a brawler and as a fighter, and being able to play as Iron Man and Kamala and Thor. The opening sequences have more life, and because everything looks shinier and there's more particle effects, like, all of these next-gen updates really do help with that campaign and giving you that best experience possible. One of the negativities that I have and criticisms that I have is my experience when being on the PlayStation 5. Fortunately, I have it on that system because I can't take advantage of smart delivery like I could on my Series X. And with that, the actual changeover and update of going from my PlayStation 4 version of Marvel's Avengers and trying to update it to PlayStation 5 was annoying. This is less to do, I think, with Square and the game. It has more to do with PlayStation and Sony and the way they are handling when we have to do certain updates to games. And on Xbox side, you just update the game and you're good to go. There is no fumbling around. We did a video, we did an episode to try and help people out there. People were saying to me in the comments that, thank you, this is great, I needed this. I was going to throw the game away. I didn't want to replay it. I lost all my stuff. The amount of people in the community outlining how many issues they have was crazy to me, because I was one of them. This hampered my experience, and it just made me feel like, Again, we have another barrier to entry. And for a lot of people, don't have a lot of time. They don't want to deal with this. They want to be able to just turn on the game and go. They hear about an update for Marvel's Avengers. They see that they did get a patch update and they click into the game and they're not understanding if they have the update or not, or they see the difference. And then we have to go through all of these steps on PlayStation side in order to get the game to run properly with our save, with our update. It's a lot to deal with when you're just trying to play a video game. And on Xbox side with Smart Delivery, we have none of that. So kudos to Xbox on that side. If you're a PlayStation owner, it's another barrier with this title. Now, if you are returning or you are new to the actual game itself, there is DLC. Going from the Kate Bishop DLC and now the Hawkeye DLC, having 2 pieces of DLC now is great. However, I gave a full in-depth review of my impressions of completing the Hawkeye DLC and what my thoughts and impressions were overall, and you guys can go check that out. But Operation Future Imperfect is imperfect. For so many of us, it did not deliver. For a lot of people out there, they felt that this was solid enough, they enjoyed it, and they were happy with the experience. If you go through and you play the entire thing for the Future Imperfect DLC and you want to maximize it, you could probably get a couple of hours out of it. If you want to mainline the whole story piece like I did, and then I went back and played through some more, it takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to just run through the actual campaign. That piece I felt was lackluster. I didn't enjoy the Maestro boss battle. I thought that it could use more, and I didn't feel like it flushed things out enough. Now we are looking at the next piece of content and looking more at the Cosmic Cube as the next piece of content drop later this spring into this summer. And we'll talk about the roadmap in a bit. I thought that with the Hawkeye DLC, overall, it was fine to good. There was nothing that was terrible about it by any means, but I felt like they didn't flesh out Hawkeye as a character enough. And I felt like we understood Kate Bishop's motivations more than we did Hawkeye, who just seemed kind of generic overall. It's a great storyline piece that we had available, but I felt like they just didn't deliver enough. Which seems to be kind of an overall thread and theme when it comes to this title, right? Is that it's not quite there. We're almost there. It's just not quite what we wanted. That's how it kind of feels at this point. Is more DLC welcomed? Absolutely. As a new player out there, with a solid campaign and 2 pieces of content, skins, everything kind of optimized, you're getting a really good experience, or kind of the best of what you can get, and enough for you to go through to feel like you're getting your money's worth, especially at this point. The Hawkeye DLC is obviously worth playing, the continuation of this story that we're going through, but I felt like it just didn't deliver enough when it comes to the story piece. Now, the next piece that I have on here is something that maybe you didn't think we would go through, but it's the customized harm rooms. This was outlined to us as being one of the big pieces for the updates and had me very excited to be able to go through and customize my own harm room challenge. Being able to take my character, add as many enemies, seeing all those images and videos of just 100 guys on screen and I'm Iron Man, I'm blasting guys. There's a lot of good when it comes to the custom harm rooms, but there is one thing that bothers me with this updated customized harm room. I like the fact that I can go and click on the customized harm room, being able to select which character I want, outline how many enemies, how many waves I want, what buffs that I get with it, even into add-ons for my character, and be able to have invincible mode. So I can just go in there as Thor like I was, and I am just beating guys left and right. I'm just beating them off, beating them off, beating them off. You shouldn't say that in the morning. But the one thing that bothers me, and I was worried about this when they announced it, it was my big question, doesn't impact your XP. Now, you might say, Matt, that would be very much like almost a cheat code of being able to go in there and just hit waves after waves of enemies with invincibility and getting the XP bonus and being able to level up your character going through a customized harm room. That doesn't seem very fair. I understand that, but at the same time, once you go through and it's a training area. Once you go through and you have completed a couple of rounds of this and you're like, okay, cool, I've gone through and I've been able to beat different enemies. I can customize the way I want. So what? Now that I've gone through it a couple of times and my time is limited and I'm trying to improve, the whole point of the game is to be able to upgrade your character, to play as Marvel's Avengers characters and being able to increase them along the way. Going into a customized harm room doesn't help me benefit anything other than being able to practice certain moves, finishers, if I want to be able to just kind of get my timing down with the character. On that part I understand is beneficial. If you don't have experience with a character, like let's just say Kamala or Black Widow, because they're on my least amount of upgraded characters. Customized harm rooms are great because I can play as Kamala, go in there and really get acquainted with that character and understand what their moves are and abilities and just put myself as invincible and not have to deal with anything. Great practice environment, but to tout it as this additional game mode and I can't go in there and be able to customize it and get any XP out of it, after the first or second time, you really don't need to, especially if you're a player that has gone through this game as in depth as a lot of us have. You don't really feel the need to go into a training area to practice your characters other than the fun of fly around as Iron Man and you've got 50 enemies on screen. It's kind of cool that way, but outside of that, there's not much else to do. And the last thing to talk about with this, everybody, is going to be the roadmap. Now, we did a full in-depth episode on the roadmap, and thank you guys for watching that episode. The roadmap was actually great. It was a positive piece of news coming out of this that we understood what Marvel's Avengers and Square is looking to do with this title all the way until the end of the year. We don't have hard dates on a lot of this stuff. We have windows. We know what's going to be coming down in the spring and summer, like the Cosmic Cube. We know that we are going to be looking at a little bit more content into the fall, and then we are going to cap things off with the Black Panther DLC and the Black Panther expansion for the actual fall and winter. But we did episodes where we're talking about, is Black Panther enough to save the game? And do you think the Wakanda expansion is enough? Go check that one out. However, a lot of the feedback was like, hey, a lot of people are looking at, can one piece of content save a game? And everyone's talking about this. Or can Spider-Man save a title like this? In my opinion, no. I mean, you'd have to be doing a lot of work throughout to make this a viable game. There are bigger issues at play with this title than just adding on another piece of content. And we don't know what the Wakanda expansion is going to actually look like. It's an expansion. It's not necessarily a DLC like the Hawkeye DLC. But the problem I have, and I think a lot of the problems that other people in the community are having right now, is that we're back to these gaps in time. That's a big issue with this game, is that there's too many gaps between these launches and these rollouts. Great, we have a roadmap, but we're months and months apart from each other for the next update or the next piece of content. When we're not seeing, endgame content with raids and the Hive missions are not enough. Well, now that I have gone through and going through the campaign replay, as well as I've finished off the Hawkeye DLC, I've updated my characters a little bit more. You start realizing that you are back in the same spot where you're like, I've done everything again. What's my incentive now to grind? And because they changed the XP and they made it harder to grind out your characters after level 30, you're kind of less incentivized to grind out characters even higher. What is it that I'm working towards other than to get some cosmetics and maybe a little bit more gear? So again, it's an imperfect game, and it's one that maybe shouldn't be touted as a games as a service, and they should maybe move away from that. There's a lot of work to be done. If you are a new player to Marvel's Avengers, if you are going to pick this up or you just picked this up, I think you are in an amazing spot to be able to take advantage of a good campaign with a good story to tell, with optimized graphics being on your Xbox or your PlayStation. You get the best experience out of a campaign. You're getting extra DLC to actually play through. So once you go through and you are getting into some online, you're playing as Cap and Iron Man and going through, and you now have 2 pieces of content to roll through. By the time you finish all of that, you'll probably be looking at the next piece of content like the Cosmic Cube they would roll out in maybe a few months. So you have a lot of incentive now to grab it at a retail price that's lowered down. If you're like me and you are someone who has played this thing for months and months and played it all through last year, you might be feeling that it's weighing on you and that you're ready to move on. There are other titles, there are other games that are coming down the pipe that are getting our attention. And on the Xbox side, there is so much to do with Game Pass that it's really starting to grab our attention over here. Now that we've finished everything, I think that for a lot of us, we're feeling like we have a little bit of fatigue from this game and it's time to move on, and maybe I'll jump back in when we have a next piece of content drop. So all in all, everybody, I think that my overall impressions and kind of summary of this, new players, have fun, enjoy yourself with an optimized experience in a Marvel's Avengers game that you can play online and play with your friends. And for existing players, keep upgrading your character the way you like, and finish off the DLC. And it's a good game to be able to come back to, but it definitely has its flaws, and we are still dealing with kind of this imperfect game and this idea of what is next to come without having any clarity. It's something that I think that we're passionate about because we enjoy Avengers, we enjoy the Marvel Universe, and we want to see it succeed. But for a lot of us, we're starting to move on. So it's unfortunate that it's not going to be able to grab players like it should, because there's a lot of fixes that they could have done to regain that trust with the audience, but it's a bit of an imperfect game. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about Marvel's Avengers now in its current state after the 1.5 patch update with all the next gen updates and everything else? Is it enough for you? Are you sticking around, or are you ready to bounce? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you all think. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Matt here on Assemble. Tune in tomorrow. We got more content dropping for you every single day of the week. I'm very excited. There's always going to be Marvel news, there's DC news, and there's gaming news everywhere I turn. Thank you so much for watching. As always, thank you all for assembling with us. See ya.